What is up, Sports Geeks, and welcome to the official Sports Geeks bracket here, brought to you by Nick and myself. Nick, this is the thing we prepped for all year. Right here is the creation of our bracket, of the official Sports Geeks bracket. Just a quick pre bracket interview. How are you feeling right now?
Well, Josh, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm a little bit nervous, just a little bit nervous, because last year when we posted our brackets, uh, mine was pretty bad. I'm not even gonna lie, mine wasn't very good from what I remember.
We did have a bad bracket last year.
And then it also did not help that I would have saved myself if Houston and Jamal Shed didn't get hurt,
Yep.
because the very high chance they were going to the Final Four. So I probably would have saved my bracket, but yeah, my bracket wasn't great. It definitely wasn't great last year, and I am not going to sugarcoat it. So yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit nervous this year about it, but um, I feel like I've watched enough basketball this year. I think I got good enough grasp on almost all these games that I think that we can put out a pretty good bracket here.
I would agree with you there, Nick. So let's first off start off with that. We'll keep this one simple. There's going to be plenty of games we talk about. There's plenty of games we don't need to talk about. So let's do this, in all honesty, to start.
Just go
Um,
through all the ones that we don't even need to really do.
and I think Iowa State over Lipscomb, I think, is fine as well. They're injured, but I don't think that this Lipscomb team is a 14 seed that I feel is dangerous enough.
Yes.
Let's start with this Louisville Creighton team. I would lean Creighton. I'm curious to hear where you think here, though.
Talking in our team, like when we had the six teams that could make a run, you brought up a really good case for Creighton. Um, I'm a Louisville guy, like I've brought up in past episodes, but I don't know if Louisville having the all around better guards is going to be enough to combat the problem they're going to have down low with Ryan Kalkbrenner,
Yeah,
especially if Noah Waterman's out because he
yeah,
got hurt. He got hurt in that game against Duke. Um, I think it kind of depends on if he's going to be able to play or not, because that's another big body guy that this Louisville team is going to need, because believe it or not, if you've watched any basketball this year, which I know you have, but
hmm
the listeners and those watching, Louisville has no interior post presence whatsoever.
no, not.
Um, so I will defer this to you. I will let you take Creighton. I will let you take Creighton.
I do appreciate.
I think it could go either way, but I will
Yes,
allow Creighton as the pick.
and we won't make the run too far. I think Auburn to beat Creighton. I will say, I talked about Creighton and their ability to give Auburn a very, very difficult game. This Auburn team is going through a little bit of an identity crisis. I know that's something you mentioned a couple times, but
Yeah,
I think that when it comes down to it, Bruce Pearl, I think, is going to get the guys back rallied and doing what they need to do. And when you're playing a team that you're so much better than, like a Creighton team, I think you're going to be fine.
yeah, I
Now,
completely agree.
when you get to the Elite Eight, the Final Four, the national championship matchups, I think this Auburn team is very subject to being beaten because they've shown how to beat them this year. But overall, I think Auburn gets Creighton. Let's go to the Michigan UCSD and A&M Yale. Do we see any upsets here, or do we see a just classic 4-5 matchup in the second round?
I personally do not see any upsets here. I really
Okay,
don't.
I
We
completely
talked
agree.
about it. Like, this UC San Diego team is pretty good, but I'm almost positive they haven't played anybody that is in the Power Five at all this year. Yes, they have the obvious, which is, oh, well, they turn people over 15 plus times per game. And obviously, you see Michigan, and they turn the ball over a whole hell of a lot.
Mhm.
Almost, I think the tallest guy on UC San Diego is 6'8". So, I mean, if Trey Donaldson plays even three-fourths of the guy that he played during that Big Ten tournament, I don't see why they couldn't easily beat this UC San Diego team. I mean, you look at, they got Danny Wolfenflag going. You got two 7-footers. They're going to
Yeah.
have a field day in the post, and as long as they can make free throws and they can finish tough buckets,
Mhm.
I don't think Michigan has a problem there. And I kind of think the same way about A&M. A
Yeah.
lot of, like we talked about, and obviously I had a Yale player in my
John Polakidis.
John Polakidis in my 10 players to watch for March. I just think they lost too much off that team from last year to do what they're going to do again.
Well, and I think you also have to look at uh, what you were playing against last year in the Auburn team. I mean, obviously, Chad Baker-Mazar is a big, big part of that team.
Yeah,
He
and
gets
he
thrown out.
gets
He gets
thrown out.
tossed in like the first 5 minutes of that game. That's
Yep.
huge, right? This A&M team, I think, plays elite level defense, and we might disagree here, Nick. So we might have to go into our first conflict. But I think A&M, the defense they play is going to put so much pressure on the Michigan guards and the Michigan decision makers. You look at a guy like Nimari Burnett, I don't think can handle the ball very well. You look at a guy like Will Shatter, I don't think can handle the ball very well. So
Yeah.
that means the ball is going to be in Trey Donaldson and Danny Wolf's hands, making decisions all the time on the fly against high pressure. That is a recipe for disaster when you have a team that's as turnover prone as Michigan lining them up with an A&M defense. I think A&M wins this game, and then I actually think Auburn gets revenge on A&M, and we see Auburn in the Elite Eight there.
You know what? I'll agree with this pick. Honestly, I will. I will agree with this because I mean I think Auburn's going to beat whoever they play in that next round anyway,
Yeah.
whether that be Michigan or A&M. For me, it really is like you said. It's going to come down to can A&M play that style of defense to where they're just going to hound the basketball. They can turn you over, but is A&M also going to be able to score? And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the big thing that we've seen is can Zurich Phelps and Wade Taylor be consistent enough to where they're going to actually put up that 15 plus a game and
Mm-hmm.
not where they're going to have a game where Wade Taylor decides he wants to go, go by the wayside and have 5 turnovers and maybe
Mm-hmm.
puts up 10 points and most of them from the free throw line. I think that could be a really big issue. And I also see A&M running away with this game if Wade Taylor can get to the free throw line.
Right.
Can he bully these guards from Michigan? And if I think he can, I will agree with you on that pick. And I think that they get to that rematch with Auburn, but I ultimately think Auburn gets the better of them there.
Yeah, I think that's the revenge game that we're that you might see, right? Auburn's a little bit pissed off the way that A&M beat them at
Yep.
College Station a couple weeks ago. Let's go to this Marquette, New Mexico. I think we're on the same page here. I'm going to go New Mexico. Are we on the same page there, Nick?
Yes, I really love this New Mexico team. We brought up what they have with Donovan Denton, Nelly Jr. Joseph. I think if there was going to be a team from the Mountain West that was going to win in the first round that isn't named Colorado State, I believe it's New Mexico. Like New Mexico finished top of the league in the Mountain West. They have one of the best players in Donovan Dent. I think this is going to be a really good matchup with him and Cam Jones. But I think Richard Pitino gets the job done here, and I think he starts to help put rest the narrative that the Mountain West can't compete in this tournament.
Yes. Now, do you think they compete with my Spartans in the next round? I will
Not
defer
at all.
every single Michigan State pick to you. Okay.
Not at all. I think Michigan State absolutely rolls them. I
Okay.
think Michigan State rolls either team they play in that second round.
Okay, I agree with you, but obviously I am as biased as guys gets when it comes to Michigan State. So Ole Miss against San Diego State or UNC, obviously. So this is being recorded Monday night. I think that who wins this game for me is important. I think if UNC wins this game, that they actually could have the momentum to win a first round game or even beat Iowa State because I think that they have the experience, the top end experience of a guy like RJ Davis,
Yep.
who's played a national championship before. Now, I could see UNC coming out and losing to San Diego State by 15. So that's why I think that the watching the first 4 game is so important. Unfortunately, we were getting this out before this. So, Nick, do we go with the San Diego State / UNC to go beat Ole Miss and to beat Iowa State, or do we have Ole Miss doing that?
See, this is like my biggest thing is obviously we have the 14 teams from the SEC in this tournament,
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, they're deserving. All 14 that made it are deserving, but I think there's a few within the list of 14 that are overrated. I really do.
yeah,
Um,
I love those.
I've looked through the SEC bias. Some of my friends and some people that I've seen online are really SEC biased. I just don't see it. Don't get me wrong. I think the SEC is a great conference. I think it's been a great conference all year. But like I said, I think there's a few outliers in this conference. And if we're going to give UNC a game against San Diego State, who statistically is horrendous on offense, they're outside the top 60 in Ken Palm efficiency on offense. You're going to let Carolina play them in the first round to get that momentum rolling again. I think that they could beat Ole Miss, and I think that they could probably beat Iowa State as well, depending on how banged up Taman Lipsey is in that game. If Taman Lipsey is back to being at least, I'd say, 85 to 90%, and he can still give you 20 plus 25 minutes and he plays like he has all year, then I think Iowa State wins. But we don't know what we're going to get with that. And
Yeah.
we didn't know that, like I brought up earlier, going into the tournament, that Keyshawn Gilbert was going to be out for the year.
Hmm.
TJ Otzelberger waited till after the the bracket was revealed to say that, and guess what? It kept him as a 3 seed.
Hmm.
If he says that Keyshawn Gilbert's out for the rest of the year, and then you're going to show that Taman Lipsey's been banged up to end the year, there may be a 5 seed.
Yeah. Well,
At least off of what the committee says with player availability. Player
yeah.
availability. But no, I think UNC they really could make a run, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them playing your Spartans in the Sweet 16. I
So
really wouldn't be surprised.
you want to make this pick here, or we want to go Iowa State? Official pick by you here.
I know it's so chalky because it's literally seeds 1 through 4, but like that's just how this bracket is this year. I think this is one of the chalkier years we've had. So yeah, I think I'm willing to go Iowa State against Michigan State, and then Michigan State beats them to go to the Elite Eight against Auburn,
Okay, perfect.
which I
And
hate to do. I hate to do, but
no, I promise anybody. I mean, this is this first region we've done. Anybody that's watching, I promise you, we will not have 1, 2, 3, 4 everywhere. But we do
no, it
see
won't be.
that
But
happen occasionally. We'll see at least one of these brackets have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think this one is probably the most likely one. I'm going to defer this to you, Auburn, Michigan State. I'm not going to have any input here at all. Who do you think wins this game?
all right, so I mean, we look at it when you know what Izzo does when he has his best teams. You know where he goes. He gets to that Final Four. And I think this is probably one of the better teams that he's had since that since that team that beat Zion.
Yep.
I know you don't want me to do it. I know you don't want me to do it, but I'm going to do it. I think Michigan State gets the better of Auburn here. I think that they can compete with Auburn. I think the way that Izzo plays, the way that this team plays, they can get out and run. They play good defense. You're going to have the size advantage down low. This Michigan State team has a legitimate three guys that are all 6'10 plus that can play on the block. They rebound like crazy, and then you're going to have a guy who I think could also be an absolute stud in Jace Richardson and probably take over this tournament. But yeah, I'm going to put your Sparty into the Final Four. I think they deserve it. I mean, if we're really looking at it, they don't lose. They don't lose to Wisconsin. I told you this. They don't lose to Wisconsin if Trey Holloman doesn't get that really bad tech, and
No.
then Wisconsin proceeds to go on a 9-0 run following that because they got a new fire under their ass because one of the players went in their huddle. If
Yeah.
you completely take that scenario out and you watch that game, yeah, it was back and forth, and Tanjay had a really good game, and Michigan State really couldn't find a way to stop him. But at the same time, they were on a run. They were up 5,
Mm-hmm.
and he completely pulls the rug out from under the team, and you see Wisconsin go on that 9-0 run, and just were never able to completely get back to the level playing field there. But I think Michigan State can best this Auburn team, and I think they get back to the Final Four.
Yeah, well, I think real quick, the only comment I'll make about Michigan State is you have elite point guard play in Jeremy Fears and Trey Holloman, right? I think
Yes.
those are two guys that, while Fears is not going to shoot the ball well from 3, he is an extremely good playmaker for others and a spectacular defender. Both very good defenders there. You have Jace Richardson and Jaden Akins, who I know Akins has not shot the ball well this year. He is plenty capable to light it up
Yes.
3.
Extremely capable of doing it.
That's where it's like, and he's experienced. He's not going to be scared about playing a game in March Madness. So I think that's one that if Jaden Akins is going to shoot the ball well this tournament, they're going to be a Final Four team.
Yes.
And then you also have the bigs that you mentioned. So we'll go ahead and move on. I think this is another bracket where we don't see any issues in 1, 2, and 3. Moving on, I think these are this is the 1, 2, and 3 seeds in this bracket specifically, and I think in a lot of these brackets are so much better, and there's a clear tier upgrade that I just don't see these teams struggling all that much. But
Yeah, you look at this region, a lot of people are calling this region the region of death. And I see it. I mean, you look at the top 4 seeds, these are 4 basketball teams that are playing some of the best basketball in the country. You look
yeah,
at Florida, insane, went on to win the SEC. You look at Maryland, battled, played very well down the stretch. Obviously had a bad game and ended up losing to Michigan. Texas Tech, playing really, really good basketball right now.
mm-hmm.
And then obviously you have St. John's, another conference champion in
Yes.
this region. Um, But I don't know how you think about this 8-9 game, but I think I want to put my eggs in the basket of Oklahoma, Porter Moser, and Jeremiah Fears. But I don't know how you feel about that because obviously it's Hurley, it's UConn, it's March, but this team isn't the team from the past 2 years. It's not.
No, and
And
I
they
think
statistically haven't played like that either.
no, and I think that's why I'm okay going Oklahoma, and I think this is a relatively risk-free one because Florida wipes the floor with whoever they
Yeah,
play.
it doesn't matter either way in the next
But
one.
but I think yes, it's Danny Hurley in March. Danny Hurley has had the last 2 seasons, two spectacularly talented teams.
Yes.
And that's not saying he doesn't deserve credit because he did a spectacular job building and implementing his playing style into those teams, and they were very, very good. But this is not the UConn of the past 2 years. This
No, it
is
is
a team
not.
that has
Not even remotely close.
a star freshman in Liam McNeely, who is a very good player, going to be a great NBA player, but is not consistent
No.
yet. You have a great player in the solo ball, right? But then you have inconsistency out of Aiden Mahaney and Hassan Diarra. You have inconsistent play inside with Samson Johnson. You have Terrace Reed Jr., who's a great guy coming off the bench, but is not very intelligent when it comes to when to foul, when not to foul. This UConn team plays very foul heavy defense, and when you
Yes.
play a guy like Jeremiah Fears, who is as good as he is at getting to the line, they're going to be in foul trouble, and he is going to torment them on offense. So I like that there. Oklahoma, and then obviously Florida moving on. Memphis, Colorado State. I think we're on the same page here that Colorado State's going to be playing up against Florida in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I really do agree. I think if we're going to make a pick in any of these brackets, that's going to be an upset and continue to be that upset that gets that Sweet 16 game. I think it's right here.
Yep.
I think it is right here. Like I said in the episode we just did about 6 teams that could really overachieve in March and in this tournament, I brought up Colorado State, and I think it's honestly a disjustice what the committee did giving Memphis a 5. Memphis is not a 5 seed. I brought it up earlier. I think Memphis, in all reality, Memphis and Louisville should switch.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville should be the 5 here. Memphis should be the 8 up there. It doesn't make sense how they were able to get to this spot and giving out this bracket to where they see Memphis as a 5. And
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I get it. Louisville took advantage of a really, really poor ACC, but you can't completely destroy the body of work that they had this year. I
No.
mean, you just can't. And the fact that they did isn't right, but you're looking at a Memphis team kind of just had to into the tournament on fumes. You just lost one of your best ball handlers, one of your best guards, and Tyrese Hunter. Um, yeah, and you're playing the hottest team in basketball, and that's
Mm-hmm.
Colorado State. So I completely agree. I think if we're gonna see a double-digit seed get to the Sweet 16 in any of the regions, yes, this is a region of death, but yes, Colorado State is that good, and they've been playing that good to where I think that they'll be able to do it.
Yes. No, I completely agree. Now, this Missouri Drake game, I'm going to defer to you because I think Drake could win this, but I'm going to defer to your judgment here on whether Missouri gets it done or not.
I feel the same way about this game as well, and I've been thinking about this in all the brackets I've made. This is almost kind of one of those toss-up ones, but at the same time, I've seen what Missouri's done to some of these high-level um, SEC teams. They have a win over Florida. They
Mm-hmm.
have a dominating win over Bama. I think that's enough. And
Yep.
you're also telling me that you're going to get Mark Mitchell back. He's going to be fully healthy. He averages 15 a game. He's their leading scorer. He's literally the heart and soul of their team. A really good transfer that they got from Duke. This is a guy that, in all reality, if he really wanted to, could have stayed on Duke. Obviously, was going to see his minutes get cut, but would have been a really good factor on this Duke team.
Oh,
In
yeah.
all reality, would have been a fantastic add for this Duke team. I just don't see it with Drake. And we talked about it earlier. They really slow the game down. Are they going to be able to slow the game down enough though to where they can stop this Missouri team from running? And I just don't know. I
Well,
really don't think they can.
Well, I think the important thing with Drake here is that you slow the game down to an extent where you have to be efficient,
Yeah,
and you make it to the point where if you don't shoot the ball well or you don't get to the line as much as you'd like, you cannot win the game. Whereas the style that Missouri plays, you play fast enough that if you shoot the ball poorly, you can still win the game
yeah,
because
you're
you
going to get
play.
enough opportunities.
Yes. So I don't mind Missouri going there. I think this one is also a little bit of risk free because I think Texas Tech wins the next game
Yeah,
in the second round.
yeah.
Now Arkansas Kansas is one that for me,
This is
I
the
know
one
you're
I
a little bit.
really. This is the one I really don't know. I really don't.
I'm gonna go. I'm leaning Arkansas here, and I'll tell you why. Because I look back to when you give Calipari several days to prepare for a blue blood big game. Look at what he
Yeah,
did to Kentucky earlier in the season, right? And I understand it's a
yeah.
return to Rupp Arena, but look, he has experience coaching against a team like Kansas, and this Kansas team is all sorts of jumbled right now. They are not playing the basketball.
They
They'll
are
have
the
the all
probably
season.
one of the most inconsistent teams in the country.
Yes. And so when you have somebody that's as inconsistent as Kansas, and you take somebody like Arkansas getting Boogie Flan back, maybe either way,
Yeah, I mean,
I think that you have enough around them with John L. Davis, with Adu Thiero, with Big Z who can shoot the three. We also
yeah,
talked about this. Big Z, Ivasic, obviously the brother of Illinois' Ivasic. It
yes,
This guy shoots the three at a high enough of a level. Hunter Dickinson is an extreme liability,
yeah,
extreme liability on the defensive side of the ball. So
yep.
I don't care what he's doing on the offensive side of the ball. Big Z's a solid defender. He's a little bit thinner, so maybe Dickinson will muscle him around a little bit. But either way,
And if he doesn't, guess what? Just throw in Jonas Adu or Trevon Brazil,
yep,
and you'll be fine. But I mean, I agree with you. I think Arkansas and Cal are good enough, even though people are going to continuously be like, "Well, Cal doesn't win in March. Cal doesn't win in March." Yeah, you're not wrong, but also at the same time, the past couple bad like first round losses that Cal's had have been like literally the Cinderellas
mhm,
of the tournament. It's not like they go on and beat Cal and it's like the worst, it's just absolutely the worst loss ever. It's not like Oakland went and beat Cal last year and then just sucked against NC State. Like
right,
no, they battled. Like it wasn't like they just won and got blown out. Like
right. And St.
yes,
Peter's 3 years ago, it's not like
yeah,
St. Peter's beat Kentucky and then just fell off the face of the earth. No, they made
yeah,
an Elite Eight. Like,
exactly. Like, and I get it. If I was a Kentucky fan, I'd feel the same way. I'd be just as mad. I'd be like, yeah, he can't win it. It's a real problem. But if you're going to tell me that this Arkansas team is going to get back Boogie Fland, who before he got injured was a lottery pick or at least a top 20 pick in the
mhm,
draft, he was averaging, I want to say, like 15 and 6. They had a fantastic game in the Garden against Michigan, where at one point in the game they were up by like 20 something points.
yeah,
And yes, the game flipped on its head, and then Michigan went up by 10 plus points. But then guess what? Boogie Flan took over and they closed it out, and they got a humongous win against the team who just won the tournament title in the Big Ten. So no, I
yeah,
completely agree. I think this Arkansas team is kind of being looked over, and I also think that this Kansas team's still getting too much credit being a 7. They haven't been consistent all year. Yes, they had some big wins earlier in the year, but it's just the same old every other week. You never know if Zeke Mayo is going to have 25 points or if Zeke Mayo is going to shoot 1 of 7 from deep and he's going to give you 10.
yeah,
You know you're going to get the same from Hunter Dickinson. You're going to get his consistent 17 and 8, 17 and 10, but his plus minus is still going to be like minus 15 because he can't play defense. So,
yeah.
no, I
But
completely agree. I think Arkansas is a good take here.
so this Texas Tech St. John's, I think I know which way you lean, and I'm okay with it here because I think Florida wins no matter what. Are you okay with this?
If you really like St. John's, I will let you put them there.
Okay.
I know that'd be two 1-2s, but I think it's 112% possible.
Okay. I love St. John's in this spot, and I think Florida wins either way. And in all honesty,
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you take Michigan State all the way to the final as much as I
No,
want
I'm not gonna lie. I was gonna pick Florida to go to the final.
to. Okay.
I was.
I like that.
I was.
So we there we go. We have the entire left side of the bracket done. Let's go ahead up here. So let's go Duke. I think we can agree on that. Let's go Alabama. Are we going to throw a 14 over 3 in here or no?
I, one of my buddies, his brother, he was like, "Yeah, or the Montana the Grizz like really good." I'm like, I don't know where you're hearing that from, but I was like, whatever source told you that, you probably need to quit talking to him because that's just not the case.
Yeah.
No, yeah, no, I think Wisconsin probably wins that game by like 20 points.
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, that was jokes, by the way. I don't think
No,
we see
yeah, yeah.
Troy over Kentucky is really the only thing that I could see at all. And even that's a stretch to make that pick, but maybe
Yeah.
we'll throw that in late. We'll see here. Would you agree with Mississippi State over Baylor?
That game is really interesting to me. It is really interesting to me because obviously you look at what Baylor's body of work when they're completely healthy. They're an easy, I'd say, top 25, top 20 team. But they lost their center for the year, and now they're playing North Chatham Amir, who's probably 6'7", as their starting center, and it's been a
Mhm.
problem. It's been a problem down the stretch, and then they also have Celestine, who's probably right around the same height, but he's built like a 3 or a 4. Um, so I think in this game it really comes down to whenever Baylor wins, it's because North Chatham-Mir and VJ Edgecombe, who is going to be a
Five.
3, top 5 pick in this
Yeah,
draft,
probably
if they
three.
can combine for 40 plus points, I think they win. Um, it really comes down to can Jeremy Roach be the Jeremy Roach last year, where you see more out of him than where he's more than just a role player.
Yeah.
Can he be a point guard that is able to sit down, play defense, guard Josh Hubbard to where Josh Hubbard's not going to go off for 25, and you look and you see this Baylor team down 15.
Hmm.
Um, but I think this is a pick where you could go either way. I don't think it matters. Duke's going to win easy, but yeah, I'll go with Mississippi State on this one.
Okay, and I'm gonna make a couple picks here at the bottom side of this bracket, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. So I'm gonna take BYU there, and then I'm gonna take St. Mary's here. Are you thoughts on BYU, and then St. Mary's, and then Bama?
Yeah, so I think this is a spot where we can safely say um, that we have found our second SEC team that is a fraud. This Vanderbilt team, talk about coasting into a tournament. This is your top suspect for it. I
Right. Well,
mean,
and I think this Vanderbilt team, to describe them in the only thing we need to say about them, and I think we can, in all honesty, I think you would probably agree that we could move on after one sentence is in Nashville, very good. Not in Nashville, very bad.
it's not, and it's that simple. It truly is that simple. You look at the wins they have at home. Don't get me wrong; they're fantastic. They play really well at home, but once they leave downtown Nashville, they are a shell of a team. They're
Yep.
not even remotely close to being the same team. I think you're going to be facing a really pissed off St. Mary's team as well. This is a
Hmm.
team that wasn't able to complete they completed the season sweep of Gonzaga. They weren't able to get the three-peat in that championship game, even though they played their style. They got Gonzaga to play their style of slow-paced basketball, defense, defense, defense. They held them to 58. They just weren't able to get a win. But no,
Yep.
I completely agree with you. I think Vanderbilt's going to be the second fraud we see out of the SEC. I love the BYU pick to beat Wisconsin. And I think Bama wins against BYU, but it depends on if Grant Nelson is going to be able to play.
I
So
think he's
as
back. I think he's
when we're
back by
really
then, though.
that is true. So if
But
he
do you
is
think
back
you get
by then,
another
then
week?
yes. But I know he is getting evaluated today as we release this on Monday. He was getting his knee evaluated. They were going to do some tests on it, some scans to see what's up with it. So if that's a season ender,
Yeah.
I completely see BYU getting to that game against Duke. But if
Mhm.
not, if he's fine, if he can come back, I think Bama will just be too much for BYU. Just be a little bit too athletic for him. So yeah, I sadly see this as another region where it's a 1 versus 2, which I don't love having a bunch of 1 versus 2s, but you know what?
Yeah. It's almost one of those where we're gonna mix it up. I know this bracket here is we're gonna have something mixed up.
Throw
Uh,
BYU in there. Screw it. Why
but
not?
yeah, I like that.
Let's do it.
um, yeah, I like that there. And the BYU Duke. I mean, do you think Duke gets out of here?
Yeah, I think Duke is just going to be too lengthy, too athletic for a team like BYU. Duke's going to make it really hard for BYU to really get that 3-point shot off.
Hmm.
And that's where I kind of think that they could take advantage of Bama and the small guards. Bama guards aren't necessarily huge,
Yeah.
but you look at what Duke rolls out on their roster. Their smallest guard is like 6'5" or 6'6". So
Hmm.
that's going to be a bit of a struggle to try to get those shots off. And I think by that time, Duke's going to be humming. And I wouldn't be surprised if Duke won that game by like 10 plus points.
Now, I want to get your thoughts on this Oregon Liberty Arizona Akron here pod because I could see any of these four teams playing Duke in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think this is the pot of just it's just straight up fun. This is just
Yes.
basketball. This is you don't know what you're gonna get. I
No.
mean, like we talked about earlier, you got teams in Oregon and Liberty. They love to shoot the three, and then you
Mm-hmm.
got teams in Arizona and Akron. They just get out and run, and they just
Mm-hmm.
score. I mean, you're
So
looking
I
at
think
like
it's just talking here. I think it's going to be either this or this. I don't think we see this, and I don't think we
I
see this.
agree.
I don't think
I
we see
agree.
both upsets. But Nick, which way do you lean here?
It's been tough the past couple years to lean into Arizona, just knowing what Caleb Love brings day in and day out because he's never consistent enough. But I think you look at it at the same time with Oregon. Oregon's never consistent enough either. And
No.
we've looked at this Oregon team all year, and we talked about it earlier with Jackson Shellstad. He either goes off for 20 plus or he'll have a game where he doesn't score.
Right.
Um, and this is kind of a scary matchup for them in Liberty because Liberty is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country.
Yeah.
So I kind of like where you go with this. I also think it's another thing that doesn't really matter. I think Arizona gets to that rematch with Duke in the Sweet 16, and I still think Duke will be able to beat them. But I don't want to put Arizona out right away. No disrespect to Akron Zips, I think they're a really good team. They ran through the MAC this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Miami of Ohio by 30. They beat Kent State by 30. Like they dominated teams, but I don't know if I like them enough to give them that upset right away, but
Mm-hmm.
I will definitely agree. I think we could see another 5-12 upset with Liberty possibly shooting the lights out of the ball and getting a W over Oregon in that first round.
Yep. No, completely agree there. All right. This is the region of chaos, I think, and I
Lot
will do
going on with this region.
I will do this though, because that's something that we're going to see. And I know we have 3 1
Yeah,
seeds, but you got to and we're going to do this. And I know you're going to say it's one seed versus one seed. Well, that's what it was last year, right? So let's not act like it's crazy to have 2 1 seeds playing in the national championship, and that's crazy to have 1-1-1-2 in the
I
final
will. I
four.
will. I will say this. I will say this, and it really does depend on if Grant Nelson's going to be 100%. But if Grant Nelson's 100%, Josh, I'm not lying to you. I think that they could beat Duke. I really do, and I
Yeah.
think they could be that fourth. I think they could be that fourth uh, Final Four team, which would give us 1-2-1-2, which obviously looks a lot better than having straight chalk of 3-1 seeds. But the viewers gotta understand when we're putting this out right now. There's like a legitimate shot that Grant Nelson doesn't return this year.
Yep.
Um, uh, Alabama fans, from what I've seen, aren't necessarily. Uh, I wouldn't say. I mean, they're not necessarily thinking great things right now.
Hmm.
That he's going to be able to play in the first and or the second round. Um, so yes, we do have 3-1 seeds, but put a little star next to that because that could easily change if Grant Nelson's not hurt. I think Bama could go to the Final Four if he's healthy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree with you there. So let's go Gonzaga here. I think that's a I don't want to say easy one, but I really liked it. I really like the Zags to get a game here. I think that Mark Few is experienced enough that he's going to get this first round game, but you're just severely outmatched against this Houston Cougars team. This pod here, High Point, Purdue, McNeese, Clemson, is just absurd to me. I want to skip that and save it. So
Yeah,
I think Illinois against Kentucky and Illinois moving out is a really, really, really likely scenario, in my opinion. Your thoughts on that, Nick?
I would agree with that. I think I've seen a lot of people once again leaning into the well, we know what 11 seeds do once they get out of that first game and they go play that six, they get that win. Okay, yeah, they do. You're not wrong, but we have that already, and we have that with Carolina, and I think they legitimately can do that.
Yep.
I think this Illinois team, while yes, they can be inconsistent at times, I think they're just too good, and I think we've seen it down the stretch that they're good enough to compete, and I think
Mhm.
beat Texas or Xavier. I really, really do. I don't think they'll have a problem with either of those. Um, right now, I'm leaning Texas to beat Xavier. That's obviously a little bit biased, but I think just watching Texas in that SEC tournament, like they competed. They played really
Mhm.
well. You take A&M to double OT, you get a win, and you battled Tennessee as well for I would say at least 30 minutes of that game.
Yeah.
Tennessee really didn't take a double-digit lead, and you kind of felt the game going away until I'd say at least the 10-minute mark in the second half.
Hmm.
This was a game that I really felt good about Texas, and I think we talked about it earlier. Texas really has to come out and be consistent. I
Yeah.
think you have to see them consistent on the defensive end. I think you have to see them run their sets well on offense. I think you need to see Trey Johnson play really well, and I think you need to see Caden Cedric down low play a little bit better than he has. I don't
Yeah.
think he's played very well, and I think Arthur Klum has been kind of average as well.
Hmm.
But they have the guys to be good enough, but I don't think they're good enough to beat Illinois. And I agree. I think this Kentucky team, just injuries, just killed a season, just
Yeah.
absolutely killed a season. Because I think if you, in all reality, if this was a fully healthy Kentucky team, you're looking at a 2 or a 3 seed. And I think you would agree with me that it would be a 1 versus 3 if Kentucky was fully healthy, and
Hmm.
they'd be playing Houston to go to that Final Four. But
Yep.
injuries suck. It happens. It's sports. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you there on that.
Now, thoughts on Illinois beating Tennessee then and getting us a 1-6 matchup? I know we went 1-2, 1-2, 1-6. Do we get another 1-6 here, do you think, or do we go another 1-2?
I'm honestly, I'm not gonna, I'm not the biggest fan of this Tennessee team. Um, Watching them throughout the year, I just think they struggle a little bit too much on the offense end.
I
I
think they
think
give me Houston. I'm glad you said that. I think they give me Houston from previous years vibes.
yes,
A
yes,
team that's elite defensively, but they just don't have enough offensively. Obviously, Chaz Lanier is great, but they just don't have enough.
yes, I agree. I think when you look at, I mean, even when you had like we had a stretch where Chaz Lanier was not Chaz Lanier.
Hmm.
He went on a stretch where he was nothing, and that's when they were losing games, and you were like, well, what is happening? They lose at home to Kentucky. This is a Kentucky team. I'm almost positive one of the obviously Kirk Creesa didn't play, but I want to say Lamont Butler didn't play either in this game, and maybe it was either him or Jackson or him or Carr didn't play, and Kentucky still won
Hmm.
because Chaz Lanier came out and he laid an egg, and nobody else on this team could score. Ziegler couldn't do it himself. And I
No.
think that could be a legitimate problem. And I don't want to get too crazy with this because I think Tennessee's good enough to get past UCLA, but I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA
Yeah.
somehow came out and beat them. I mean, they play the same type of style, but I almost think that UCLA has more athletic guards um, than this Tennessee team does. But I don't think I would pick Mick to come over here and do that, especially considering they're playing in Lexington. I don't think UCLA has a single win in the Eastern time zone this year, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'll just put that I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But yes,
Okay.
I like the Illinois pick. I do like the Illinois pick.
Okay. Let's go over to this pod then. Clemson, McNeese, and Purdue High Point. This is
I
interesting.
think there's another. This is another pod where there's at least one upset.
I would agree, and I wouldn't. I think this is a pod in which we see a 12 or a 13 seed playing Houston.
Yeah,
Personally,
yeah. I
uh,
mean, especially if you take McNeese. I don't want to fall into the McNeese trap again because I feel like I'm doing it, and I hate that because of what they did to me last year. Because I had them beating Gonzaga, and then I think I had the. I don't think I had them beating Kansas, but in
mm,
a few of them I did, and that's my only issue is like, are they going to just replicate what they did last year and you lose a Sweet Six or you lose in a Sweet 16 team?
you know, I feel like they don't though. I feel like they're good enough, they're experienced enough now, and that they settled in last year. And I know we talked about this in the 6 teams to watch that we
Yeah,
think will overperform. So make sure you guys go check that video out. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of them portrayed here, but this this McNeese team is the same statistical team when you look at all of the different metrics as last year. But there's a
yep,
reason why last year they were so commonly picked as an upset because the metrics are good metrics. They're a good 3-point shooting team. They take care of the ball really, really well. Those are really good. They shoot the hell out of the ball from the free throw line. Those are great statistics and metrics for March Madness success. Their only problem is they didn't have a single guy on their roster that had played a single minute in March Madness in his career.
yeah,
Now you have pretty much the same roster from last year, same coach and Will Wade coming back, and you have some experience, some tournament experience. It's not going to take you 10 minutes to settle in. I don't think Clemson's going to come out and hit 5 threes in the first 5 minutes of the game like Gonzaga did last year to
Yeah.
McNeese. And I think McNeese settles in, and then I wouldn't be surprised if they go carry on a little bit of momentum and beat Purdue, who I think is very susceptible to being beat.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, really, in all honesty. I mean, Purdue in the first round against High Point is a little bit scary.
Yeah.
I
Which
think
brings me to this question, Nick. I'm glad you brought that up. Do we just go chaos?
I don't know if I could ever do that. I just don't think I could do it. I will say this. Obviously, we say it all the time. This is not a betting show, and
No.
we will never make it a betting show. But obviously, you see Purdue; they're like a 10-point favorite, and sometimes that goes into what you're going to make a pick. Yeah, I think Purdue wins the game. Do I think they win by that much? No, I really don't.
Yeah.
I think this High Point team is a lot better than people think. Yes, they don't. They haven't. I don't think they've. I think they're another team that falls in the category where they haven't played any games against Power Five. I don't think. Um, I might fact check myself with that real quick, but they're a team that can keep it close, and I think that's why this region is going to be so fun. I think we will get at least one upset, and I think both games will be close. I think this is going to be a really fun region. Looking at it right now, yes, High Point has not played a single Power Five team yet this year.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that scares me, and I think that's kind of what is going to help me put Purdue over the edge to get that win. But I completely agree with you. I think this is a really good draw for McNeese, a lot better than what it was last year. I mean, like we talked about earlier, last year McNeese had to play Gonzaga in the first round. If they win that, then you got to go play Kansas. That's
Yeah.
terrible. You were getting thrown into a juggernaut. Two really, really legendary Hall of Fame level coaches. And now you have a team where, I mean, Will Wade's playing for a job.
Mm-hmm.
Not at McNeese. Not like he's going to get fired.
No, he's got his job at McNeese for as
He's
long as
playing for a job at the back in the Power Five. There's 6 of them open. He goes on a Sweet 16 run here.
he's got one in the bag. He's
got one in the bag easy, and they're coming knocking on his door the moment they play Houston and lose.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
So I
Playing
like this pick.
Speaking of playing Houston and losing, right? So we have SIUE, welcome to the tournament, losing to Houston. Gonzaga, losing to Houston.
I think that's going to be a great game, by the way.
No, I would agree. I think Houston's defense is just too.
I'm scared. I'm scared because I really like Houston. I don't love that they gave Gonzaga an 8 and put them there. I think Gonzaga's more of a 7, but yeah, I agree. I think Houston's defense is going to be way too much. And yes, I completely agree with the Houston as the national championship. We talked about it. We've talked about it all year. They went out, they replaced Jamal Shed. They brought in another point guard who can facilitate, play defense. This is another guy who's learning how to score. He's starting to figure it out. And guess what? They shoot the 3 ball so much better than they have in the past couple of years.
Yep.
I think they shoot the 3 ball better than the team that made the Final Four back in the COVID year. I think this team shoots the ball better than that team did, and that team got to the Final Four. But no, I think Houston's been a 1 seed the past, I think it's 3 or 4 years.
3, yep.
Past 3 years, they're going to find their way back into the Final Four. And I mean, you look at this team, they're old, they got experience, they got a national champion on their roster, they got a guy who's been to a Final Four, been on this team for 6 years. And then you bring in a guy, Milo Zuzan, who is now just a defensive juggernaut. He knows how to pass the ball. He's starting to find his rhythm on offense. Yep. And then you just pair everybody else with it. And I mean, this is a team. Yes, obviously you don't love watching defensive teams, but it's hard to pick against this Houston team. Just like the way that they probably play some of the most complete basketball I'd say in the country. Because yeah, they're great on the offensive end, but guess what? They're not like some of these SEC teams or like this Duke team where they're just going to outscore the shit out of you.
Yeah.
They play both sides of the ball. They're going to put up 75, 77. That's a hell of a day for them on offense. But guess what? They're efficient as shit when they're doing it. And they're going to slap the defense on you like they did to BYU, and they hold you to 54 points while they're doing it. So, no, I think this team, it's way too hard to pick against them. I've picked Houston to win a few of my brackets now, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a really, really chalky bracket. A lot of people are comparing it to the 2015 bracket when we had Duke, Wisconsin, Kentucky. I forget who the 4th Final Four team was. I've forgotten all week when thinking about it, but it was a really chalky bracket, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same. I think there's going to be a few upsets there here and there. It's March. It's going to happen. But when filling out a bracket on my own, like how we just did here, it's really, really hard to pick against, these top 8 seeds because my Lord, the way they've played basketball this year is insane.
Yeah, no, completely agreed, Nick. But there you go. Houston, the Cougars, as our national champion of the official Sports Geeks bracket of the 2025 season here. So that has been it. Like we referenced earlier in this podcast, right? We have the 10 players that we think you need to keep an eye on come March Madness here, and 6 teams that we think will overperform. And then obviously we talked about, I think, probably all 6 of them here. So
yes,
make sure to check those videos out too. But best of luck to anybody making a bracket. Hopefully you didn't make a bracket as good as ours, because hopefully this one is perfect. And then you and I are going and we're buying some sort of island or something with
let's do it.
With Warren Buffett's money. But either way, this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks, guys. Peace.